Yewande Omotosho is a South Africa-based Nigerian novelist, architect, and designer who was born in Barbados and grew up in Nigeria. She is a daughter of Nigerian writer Kole Omotosho. Her published works have earned her considerable attention, including winning the South African Literary Award for first-time published authors, being shortlisted for the South African Sunday Times Fiction Prize, the Mnet Literary Awards 2012, and the 2013 Etisalat Prize for Literature, and being longlisted for the 2017 Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction. Yewande is the author of this new novel titled The Woman Next Door. Ayobami Adebayo is a Nigerian writer who holds BA and MA degrees in literature in English from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife in Nigeria. She also has an MA in creative writing from the University of East Anglia, where she was awarded an international bursary for creative writing. She's the author of this new novel titled Stay With Me. Goethe Institute, Germany's worldwide non-profit cultural institute, brought the two talented writers together for a literary crossroad event focused on the author's new books, and we were there. It was an extensive evening of what you might call a literary cocktail. Here's just a little bit of how it went.
Without interrupting you.
Like most literary events, guests came to the Goethe Institute Literary Crossroad Gathering prepared to enjoy a time to get familiar with the books in focus and, perhaps more interestingly, the literary minds behind them. There was a lot to talk about, but creating and defining characters was always going to be one of the most important issues for guest authors in an event like this. Yewande Omotosho was happy to share her experiences as a writer in this regard.
My experience of myself and my writing is that I come to stories through character and through hearing them. You know, I might hear the character say something, or I might feel something that the character experienced. And then it's a bit like you said, you're either conducting an investigation and trying to sort of draw information out of these people, and they're usually not helpful, or they tell you the wrong things, and then in draft 4 you find out that, oh, is that what you did? Why didn't you just tell me, 2 years ago? That would have saved me a lot of time. Or you're like a tracker, like following a scent. And it's like the story is this kind of wild beast, and you're tracking the story and you're tracking the people and what happened to them. I think character is really important. I mean, I do think that, but that's my bias. I mean, and the stories I'm attracted to are ones that the characters really are really, really well drawn, and so they're compelling.
Novels are always set in specific backgrounds, which determine almost the entire direction of the story's main plot. Omolara Wood, literary critic, writer, novelist, and moderator of the day, was keen on knowing how Ayobami Adebayo settled for her novel's environments, especially the one she had special connections to.
I want to thank you in front of everyone here, because this is the first contemporary Nigerian work of fiction that I'm aware of that is set in my beloved Ilesha. Thank you so, so much. There were many, many points of recognition for me. Even that hospital in the book, I was admitted there as a child. And she's beaten me to writing about Wesley Hospital. So thank you so much. And I'd like you to tell these lovely people why you set this in Ilesha. I already know why, because I'm Ilesha, And when I was telling her also, when I was reading her acknowledgements, there's something she wrote in the Ilesha language to her sister. And it meant so much that I could read that, and I could access that. And it meant so much to me, because it's not even in standard Yoruba. So this is a true Ijesha sister. So please tell them the wonders of Ilesha and why this story, this book, comes alive and takes its form in Ilesha. In the main, Okay, thank you very much. And it's something that I find gratifying when people say that to me. And I've had Ijesha people who read this book say that, so I'm very happy. I'm also Ijesha, by the way, if you hadn't picked that up. But I think it's interesting because both of my parents are from Elisha, and so I was born in Lagos. My parents were living in Lagos when I was born, but they moved to Elisha shortly after. So the first 5 years of my life that I can remember, we were living in Elisha, and then we moved to Ife. And because my parents are both from there, it's a city and it's 30 minutes from Ife. It was a second home. We were visiting all the time. You could just get up in the morning and decide to visit. And it's a very beautiful place. It's where God lives. That's what we say. It is where God lives. So it was, and then like she said, the only other books I remember being set in Ijesha land were by T.M. Aluko. One Man, One Machete, One Man, One Wife, which was set in Ibala, which wasn't part of Elisha. Let me not go into the history.
Which was decades ago.
Which was decades ago. My grandfather had copies, so I read those ones. And it felt like a natural place to set the book because it was a space I was very familiar with and had access to. I could visit and sort of walk around while I was working on the book. And of course, why not Elisha?
There was time to discuss what inspired their books, influenced their writings, and of course, respond to questions from the guests. There was also time to read from their novels.
In 1990, at the ripe age of 66, Peter retired. Soon after, he started to complain that he couldn't see so well. He visited the optician for a pair of glasses. Hortensia made fun of him. She'd always been the nearsighted one. They were out walking one day in a market not dissimilar to the one she tracked him and his lover in almost 30 years before. Hortensia was musing on this, walking leisurely, several paces behind her husband, when he fell to the ground. Her immediate thought was that he was dead, and tears came in the few steps it took to reach him. His eyes were open. The doctor took various tests, and the cabinet in the bathroom filled up with the tablets they prescribed. But Peter's complaints, body ache, fuzzy head, persisted. 4 years later, the Jameses moved to Cape Town. The location changed very little. Peter continued to suffer from a series of complaints that doctors misunderstood, misdiagnosed, or suggested he ignore. In South Africa, Peter spoke less and less. It was not the kind of thing that was easy to notice. In 1995, Peter spoke about a tenth or so less than he had in 1994. No one knew, but this pattern was doomed to continue until 2014, when he died a veritable mute.
It had been more immediate with Yejide. I spent the first month after I met her driving 2 hours every day to be with her. I'd leave the office at 5 and spend about 30 minutes driving down to Ife. It took another 15 minutes to get through the city to the university gate. Usually, I would enter F101 in Moremi Hall about an hour after leaving Elisha. I did this every day until one evening, Yejide came out of into the corridor and shut the door behind her instead of letting me in. She told me never to come back. She said she didn't want to see me again. But I didn't stop. I was at F101 every day for 11 days, smiling at her roommates, trying to convince them to let me in. On the 12th day, she answered the door, came out to stand with me in the corridor. We stood side by side as I begged her to tell me what I had done wrong. A mix of odors from the kitchenette and toilets wafted in our direction. It turned out that the girl I'd been dating before I met her had been to Yejide's room to threaten her. The girl had claimed that we had had a traditional wedding.
This is where we have to draw the curtain on today's show because time is never a friend here. Half an hour just flies away so quickly. As always, please send us your comments and questions on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.